Hello, welcome to our third podcast in a row. Anyways, welcome. Thank you for coming on the extra day that we were blessed with this year. Is it Leap Day? What is today? The official
Leap
thing
Day.
is Leap Day.
Sadie Hawkins Day.
Okay. How often does it happen?
Every 4 years.
Every 4 years. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know these things. I just didn't pay attention to that part of school, I guess. So.
Yeah, it helps make up for the 365-day rotation around the sun because it's just a hair over, a quarter of a day over. So they every 4 years they make up for it by throwing in an extra day.
Is it accurate, or is it like daylight savings time? Just somebody had an idea and let's just take an inch off the top and add it to the bottom.
It's pretty accurate. That's why they
cool.
decided on 4 years versus 3 or 5. So.
Right on. Well, awesome. Everybody, welcome. We've got Terry Power, we've got Adam, and then we got Patric, of course, and then of course popping up this morning is Michael Rayburn, which was really awesome. So. Welcome everybody. Clint's traveling today. I think he's going to Miami, and then of course Elizabeth's out of the office this morning. So when the cat's away, the mice will play. So, anyways, welcome. So I think Michael, out of the whole crowd, you're the only one that's been to spring training, right? I don't think Terry, you didn't make it last year.
No.
Yeah.
I was there last year. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, cool. That's
really
that's one of the things that we get to bring new people on, introduce them to everybody, and then kind of just keep growing this thing. This being our 5th year too, and then this year we also added a 3rd day, which is pretty awesome. Anyways, so just a caveat from the very beginning: SEO Spring Training, and it's April 5th, 6th, and 7th that weekend. We do have one VIP ticket left, which is the 3rd. We're going to go to the Yankees Diamondbacks baseball game. We rented a couple suites. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then of course Thursday we do our traditional golf day, and then we're also adding in CT tactical. We're going to take some people shooting that have never been shooting before. So come to Arizona, play the Wild West. Okay.
That ought to be fun.
Anyways. Terry, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got started in this wonderful industry. Just kind of fill us in on a little bit about you.
Well, my name is Terry Power. In 1994, I became a certified internet webmaster. That certification doesn't exist anymore, but it's basically learning HTML and how packets work and how the internet works and all that kind of stuff. And at the time, there were only 3,200 websites, and half of them porn. So if you put up a website and it wasn't porn, people would find it, the few people that were out there looking on the internet. But by the turn of the century, there were a lot more, still half of them porn, but you had to put some effort in to get them found. Back then it was, the white letters on a white background, keyword could get you ranked. Then Google came along and things started to get tougher. But I moved from building websites to ranking those websites and others for clients as well as for myself. I jumped in Amazon affiliate early until they changed some rules there. So I like playing with new toys. Or looking at a new toy and go, oh, I wonder if that would work for X. And, last year I wasn't at spring training. Luckily last year I was able to get the recording. It's not, that's not always an option because I know it's such a hassle. But getting to a conference is always better than just watching a conference. You can sit down. Like this past November in Boston, I listened to Patric's presentation, and then later we can sit down and talk, and I can say, well, I got a question about something you said I didn't want to bring up at the conference maybe, or I want to know, have you ever tried taking that and applying it to this? And you can make connections. I made a connection at the last conference I was that put a couple $1,000s in my pocket just last week. So.
Yeah, that's it, and that's what's that's the whole thing about the live events, especially the ones that we do take a lot of time, energy, and effort into making sure that we can have places for that, for the networking, for the people to hang out, for making sure the bar stays open late, making sure the food's good, all the stuff that we encourage people to just hang out and just ask questions, get to know people. Yeah, the people that you meet, especially we've heard there's many testimonials out there from last year. It changed people's businesses. So, and that's the cool thing about it. So, welcome, Terry. Thank you. All right, Mr. Michael Rayburn.
Yes, sir.
You're up.
Thank you. So myself, I had a brick and mortar business. It was a jewelry store. I burned through a little over $30,000 in marketing through all your traditional stuff. And well, this was like 2009. And then I had to go, okay, it's not sustainable. As a new business, we're doing great, but it's just not sustainable. How else can we reach our clientele? And that's when I spoke to some people I knew that had jewelry stores in New York City. And they're like, well, you got to rank this. And then so I'm like, well, I have it. I have reviews. So how do I do that? And they're like, well, that's not my job, right? That's your job. You got to go figure that out. And so back then, there were videos and stuff, but it wasn't like now where you have videos from the last 15 years. So you don't know if it's current or outdated algorithms that they're talking about. And I had to literally just figure it out. And once I figured it out, then because of the downtown environment, some of the other local businesses asked me for some help, and it kind of just blossomed from there. Being that I'm prior service and I had a really bad vehicle accident, I have some back issues. So it made it where I realized that instead of making custom pieces of jewelry and sitting for hours and hours at a jeweler's bench, where sometimes you'd have like back spasms from my previous injuries, this was something I could actually do and do well with. So if, God forbid I had to, I could work out of a recliner. I could work out of, have one of those really fancy old people beds where it can shape into a recliner. So like, no matter what it is, unless I'm just like really hopped up on painkillers for that particular day, there's nothing that I can't do. Right. So like here I am in Miami right now, and I'm based out of DC. And so, here I am working also. So this morning, like I had managers meetings and things of that nature. And so it's just it's really the laptop lifestyle. And I think that's really kind of what got me started into it, really, as far as the course. But yeah.
That's awesome. Welcome. Thank you for surprising us. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sorry I haven't been on the other ones. It's just, like when you have growing agencies, you have growing agency pains, which sometimes are clients, sometimes are employees, sometimes are, updates that feel like they're back to back or whatever it may be. And so unfortunately, sometimes those demand your attention. So I apologize for not being on more of them. Normally I am. So.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, no need to apologize. This year, we have completely revamped our sales system and then our content system. So I know exactly where you're at. What you think is going to take a couple days ends up taking more than a couple weeks, and you're still finding bugs. And so yeah, it's an interesting time right now. So.
Well, yeah, and then everything from like we built a bot from the ground up on purpose to be able to run traffic through our press releases that, I'm finally at like in the next 30 days, I'll be able to launch within our agency, which will be really cool because we'll be able to do like full circle SEO on our press releases. So
that's cool.
Yeah. And, but that takes time, right? Like, you think you budget 60 days for something like that. And then here you are, 4 months into it because this glitch, that glitch, and everything else. But yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I'm looking forward to what you're bringing to spring training too, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But all right, Patric, you're up, my friend. So Patric and I met, gosh, I don't know, a year and a half ago or so. And I mean, it's he's one of the people that I really look up to. I love SaaS guys, especially SaaS guys that are in the trenches doing it. And so one of the things I loved about Patric is he has a great system, not just his software, but also he has a mastermind system. Here we go. One of my favorite jackets. Not just because I like the material, not because it is yours, but anyways, but I do give you kudos. But yeah, he's a wonderful guy. I'm so looking forward to seeing him at spring training. Welcome, Patric, and let us know who you are and all about you. Well, not all about you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Terry. It's great to be here. I'm super excited. Like anyone who gets this opportunity, I'm stoked to have the opportunity to be on the stage with these guys and just kind of looking through the roster. Some like people on that list that I've always wanted to connect with. Yeah, my background, I actually had my first job in SEO right out of college in 2001, and that was a time period where it was really hard to get a job, but I learned a really valuable lesson that sometimes when you get a job and you've seeked out the job for a long time, you hate the job, right? Like I didn't hate it because of SEO. I hated it because my boss was a jerk. So that lasted about 3 months. Spent the next couple of years as a tax accountant, which I also disliked for different reasons. That was really boring. Meanwhile, I was like playing poker with my friends on the weekends and started realizing I'm making more money playing poker than I am as an accountant. And over the next year, I kind of made the transition to a professional poker player. So I spent a decade as a professional poker player, traveling around, ended up moving to Vegas. And I had kind of like a weird experience one day at the poker table where this guy comes in, and it was, you guys probably had this experience where like you see someone and you don't know them, but you like don't like them before you know them. That's what was this guy for me. I was always like, this guy is a jackass and I don't even need to talk to him. I just know. So he sits down at the table. He's like snapping his fingers. He's like, hey baby, give me 2 drinks. Let's go. And I was like, man, I'm going to take all this guy's money. This is the fish. This is the sucker at the table. He's mine. I'm like putting all my focus on him. And he had this like on his phone every few minutes, there would be a little buzz and it would be a cash register sound. And I'm like, okay, this guy's money. So he's got the cash register sound. And like, he steps away from the table, not for my benefit, but I hear him talking and he's like, no, it's got to be first class. And it's going from like Italy to Paris, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this guy's like successful, even though I hate him, he's successful. And I was like, asked him what he did. And he said he had an internet business. And he talked about how he was selling love spells to these like divorcee women and like essentially capitalizing on their vulnerability. And I asked him how much money he was doing. And he was making like $500,000 a year and it didn't really work. And I started thinking like, who's the sucker at the table? Is it the guy that's here like grinding it out? Or is it the guy that's like set up a business that runs itself? So, that with a few other things were it was kind of like the pathway for me. I didn't want to be in poker anymore. I had moral issues with some of the stuff, people losing money that shouldn't be losing money. And then I basically taught myself to be a software engineer. So I spent the next 4 years as a software engineer doing a lot of like mobile app and web applications. And if you're good at talking to people and you also have technical ability, what happens is people start to ask you to build websites for them. And I realized the way I'm building these sites, they're not going to help these people. They want more business. So we dove deep into SEO. And as we were going through it, I realized that we don't have the tools that we need to run our agency. So that's where kind of the beginning of LeadSnap started for us. Was I was just trying to organize things for my own business. Adam and I met through a different group, and I was at a conference there, and I showed this to somebody, and they're asking me how I solve like Google My Business Management and rank tracking stuff. And I was like, well, we built an internal tool to help us with this. And they're like, can I see it? And I'm like, okay. And I showed it to them, like, can I pay you for this? And I was like, I didn't realize I built a business, So over the next like 6 years, 7 years, like we spent a lot of time focusing on this SaaS platform. So being a SaaS founder is really complicated. And I don't mean like, I know there's this like trend where everyone's a SaaS founder because they're like white labeling, but actually building something from the ground up is a really complicated thing to do, and managing that. And Adam was actually one of our first, like from the beginning. Adam was using it with a number of other people, and now I think we're in 22 countries, and it's been awesome to see the impact that this has had on people's business. And just like Terry and Adam, I get a ton out of helping people, coaching people, and that's why we started Rank Masters coaching program for agencies. So I've been fortunate enough to get some speaking opportunities with the people that are on this call, man, which is fantastic. You get some of the brightest brains in this industry who are all focused on a different aspect of it, and you put it together for the SEO Spring Training event. And it's like the Mario character is your business, and it goes and clicks on a mushroom and it gets to accelerate. Like that's what it's like to go to these conferences. Some of my closest friends have come from events like this, where you get behind the 2D, right? We go 3D and we get to hang out in person and actually break bread, have drinks together. Those are the types of relationships that when you foster those, people will trust to share what their secrets are and what they're working on. And they care enough about you at that point to try to help you out. So I think it's an amazing thing. I feel so grateful and fortunate to be able to present what we've been working on. But I'll tell you, I'm equally as stoked to be in the audience, listening to people and building new friendships while we're there. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and kind of how I'm viewing this SEO Spring Training. We're also a sponsor. So LeadSnap is sponsoring Spring Training. That's how much I believe in it. We get every conference we go to, we get asked if we want to sponsor it because we have a SaaS platform, right, that hits the marketing target audience really well. And there are ones that I want to really get behind, like Terry's and Elizabeth's and what they've done here. So I'm stoked to just be a part of this in a few different ways.
Yeah, thank you. It's going to be awesome. The friendship that we've built, and how we've kind of hit on a bunch of different things. It's more relationship. We're a lot alike, and that's why it's a pleasure to have you. And looking forward to you and your wife coming. And it's just gonna be awesome. Anyways, I didn't know the relationship between you and Adam, so that's
we go way back.
So I met Adam through the Heights. JC and Karen and Height Digital, and I follow them a lot. And Adam intrigued me because he does a lot with personal branding, which I've really been working hard on, not as hard as Adam does, obviously, but and just corporate branding. So I really believe, especially in the past few years, that branding is the most important thing. Your brand, your personal brand, your business brand, your SaaS brand, whatever brand it is, that's what it is. So, and that's what intrigued me with Adam. And I reached out and said, hey, you don't know much about me, but I'd love you to speak at this SEO event. I don't even know if you do SEO. But yeah, no, it was a great conversation. We've talked a few times. He actually does events also. So yeah, welcome, Adam. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And it's cool. You and freaking Patric know each other.
No, yeah, very small world. Yeah, Patric and I first met, I think, back 2018, 2019. So it's been a minute. And I spoke at one of Patric's events last year, which was awesome. But I spent 5 years in medical device sales right out of college. So I sold CPAP equipment for a company called ResMed here in Missouri, managed a $25 million a year territory. Medical device sales is kind of what I always wanted to do. And kind of like Patric had mentioned, like once I got the job and then I got promoted, I was 10 years younger than the next oldest key account manager. And I made $200,000 at the age of 26. And I thought, like, once I did that, my life was forever going to change. And I realized I had all the money, I had all the benefits, I had all those things, but I was depressed as shit. And so I'm sitting in a hotel room after traveling for like 4 straight weeks, because I was traveling all over the country and then a lot of the state of Missouri. And I just typed into Google in 2018, right before Thanksgiving, how to make money online. and I got retargeted by an ad on Facebook to buy a course, which is where Patric and I originally met in the rank and rent space. And so I buy the course, and long story short, from 2018 to July 2020, I built 200 rank and rent websites essentially on my own. So SEO is like my nerded out background on the local side. So I was building all these sites, some of them obviously having like a lot more success than others. But long story short, COVID happens, and I'd already kind of said like I wanted to go full time in digital marketing in 2020, but I never thought I could replace what I was making in medical device sales. But COVID just allowed me kind of the opportunity, and I guess gave me the confidence for whatever reason to go full time. So I did that in July 2020. Switched from rank and rent to the traditional digital agency model because I started to flex my sales and prospecting muscle, which is what I had done for the last 5 years. But when I was doing it on the side, I couldn't really go promote on social media, LinkedIn, all the different places where I built a personal brand that, hey, I was building this company on the side because I had this full-time gig. So once I started to do that, people were like, hey, Adam, I love that you know SEO, and I love that you understand website building and all this stuff, but I want you to do it for my roofing company, my concrete company, et cetera. So I was chasing the money because I'm like, man, I need to make some money and grow the business. So I essentially started over. And once I started to really build a personal brand, so I've been posting consistently on social media, primarily Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, all that stuff now, but twice a day on a lot of those platforms for almost 4 years. And in my first 15 months, I grew to 7 figures in the agency. Then ended up getting, connected over with Height Digital, and have grown that to, $4 million plus company, being a partner there. But in that process, I was growing my business and getting more leads inbound than any agency owner that I ever talked to. Like right now, we'll get 10 leads a day. And a lot of it is just through my content, but it's also that I've built raving fans and referral partners across the internet and all these different Facebook groups. So over the course of the last couple of years, I've started to speak at marketing events like Patric's event and the Commitment Summit and some other things. And everybody's blown away by how many inbound leads I get just from posting on social media. And so I started to do all this help for free, right? I started to reach out on calls and things like that. And then finally people were like, hey, Adam, can I start to pay you to get coached by you on the personal branding stuff, which is where I'm going really heavy and going all in on the builders of authority stuff, basically teaching people how to grow their business, whether it's their agency or a service-based business, from their personal brand. And it's one of the most underutilized aspects of growing your agency, because most coaches in the agency space say, hey, you got to go do paid ads. You got to do the cold call, cold DM, cold email, all the stuff that hundreds of thousands of other agency owners are doing. So I teach you how to not do the show up and throw up, how to connect with the right audience online, but more importantly, become the authority in your niche, doing all of this stuff. So it's been an amazing evolution in a very relatively short period of time. In that time, I've also started an auto glass company from one of those rank and rent sites. So we'll do close to $1 million. We did close to $1 million in 2023. We'll go over $1 million here this year. And we weren't a company until 3 years ago. Same thing with landscape design. And I have like 4 or 5 other rank and rents that are going to turn into equity deals here this year. So I'm not the traditional like digital marketer, but I really, really love SEO, but I love the opportunities SEO has created for other businesses while also teaching people the sales and prospecting side. Because a lot of times in all the different people that are teaching sales and prospecting with SEO, they're either teaching outdated ways or stuff that they did 4 or 5 years ago. Whereas I'm like in the nitty gritty being like, hey, like this is all the stuff I'm doing. So I'm super excited about that, because every time I get on stage, people are literally just like, man, Adam, like you talked directly to me and I knew I needed to create my personal brand, or I needed to build my personal brand. Now I'm going to go do it.
That's awesome. I started basically in the rank and rent also years ago. And I've actually I got a bunch of sites still, but I got frustrated on the GMB side. Do you still have that problem also? Or do you kind of shift it to giving it to the partner that you've designed, and
Yeah,
now you've got a branded GMB instead of, Landscaper Scottsdale?
that's what we've done, is giving it to the partner, right? So the way that's pretty much the only way that, like, consistently I've seen it. Like, I had lunch yesterday with a guy that has a Christmas lighting arm to his business, but he does exterior cleaning and all of that stuff. I have the rank and rent here in the area. And so I'm now building that up and then going to get an equity deal in his company. So we're going to take basically his branded asset, my rank and rent, and marry them together. That's what I'm doing now with these equity plays, is kind of finding a good marriage to be able to make everything work.
That's awesome. So great job. And that's, like I said, that's cool. And, we talked about you starting in rank and rent and, growing that out and now turning those. I have a site that I had in Tucson for glass shower installs and doors and stuff. And I couldn't find anybody to give the leads to. Everybody was so dang busy. And I was like,
yeah.
So, so I had to put a little bit more thought process into that. But no, I love that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. So I know you're a busy dude. So, all right, back to you, Mr. Power. What kind of stuff are you thinking about bringing to the table for spring training? I know you do a bunch of stuff. The stuff you presented in Boston at Rockstars was just really freaking cool. But what do you got planned for this time?
Well, and I thank you. I'm blessed to be able to do 2 presentations. So I'm going to do 2 different ones. One is going to be just new uses for some of the AI tools that you've used before, or maybe some tools you've never used. Because there's, every week there's a new tool or 7. But most weeks, at least 6.5 of them are crap. And once in a while, though, you find one and you go, oh, and that would work great with this. And hence, on my Facebook today, my Taylor Swift holding up her SEO Spring Training site. There's a new program out there, Ideogram. It reminds me of one that hardly anybody uses called Lexica.art that I really like. And they're both image generating. And Ideogram claims it's a lot better at putting text correctly in your images. It doesn't do it perfect every time, though. But that's okay. With most AIs, we've learned to edit, right? AI is still very young, in its infancy. And my other presentation, I want to expand on what I talked about in Boston and talk about new uses and new ways I've been able to use it, and new ways other people can. For years now, I've had clients often ask about having like a live chat feature.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the chatbot software would require you to say, okay, if they ask this question, give this answer. If they ask this question,
canned results type of thing.
And not just canned results, canned. You have to can their questions that you're going to get, And then AI got better to where, as long as the question was close to that, it would understand that it was about that basic question and do it. Well, if you build the bots the other way, using the large language models, but no hallucination ever by training it only on specific data sets, it will answer any question they ask that it knows. And you've only trained on your business, so it can tell people what your prices are. If you tell them what information you need from them, tell them how to get more information, to answer some of the, any business owner could tell you, the 3 questions I get most often are about this, this, and this. You can make sure that answers, questions about that, things like that. So how to take those data sets, and I've built bots that have learned the complete works of Shakespeare, the U.S. tax code. Recent one I did for all 50 states is what to do when your car has been damaged, whether it's flood damage, a car wreck, whatever. What do you do? And it was because a law firm hired me because they get a lot of car accident attorney searches, and the people come and they tell them they walk them through court and get them, settlements for their injuries. And then but every time the person also says, and what about my car? And the lawyer goes, I don't know. I don't deal with the cars or the property. I deal with you, and getting you fair adjustment. And they wanted to be able to say, but we've got to click over here and there's everything you need to know about your car and how to do it. And for whatever state you're in, they're not in all 50 states, but they wanted it for all 50. So their plans are to scale.
That's cool. That's really cool.
So those are the two things I want to focus on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we talked in Boston about your stuff because your stuff is the stuff that I want to put on our sites too for the more AI, FAQ, ask anything type of thing. It has many benefits, time on page, all kinds of stuff that it'll help all kinds of things. So, no, I'm excited to see what you're bringing. And you said you got two different things. You bring in something else the next day?
Yeah. I started playing with Copilot Pro about a month ago, and that led me down a rabbit hole, as most things can. And so I'm going to show you how that can help you if you're a Microsoft Office user at all, and some of the things it led me to. So
okay, cool. So,
some like best practices and stuff like that.
Yeah, as much as I want to get away from Office, I can't. I'm entrenched. I've been using it for I don't know, 20 years plus or whatever. So I even compared it when Corel had their package. That's how way back it goes. So anyway, that's awesome, Terry. I'm excited about it. So any tidbits, nuggets, or anything you want to throw out real quick about what the current state of what you think AI is, or anything like that?
I do think, like I said, I think it's in its infancy. It will grow up, and the major large language models are going to continue to be trained on the prompts you put in.
Mm-hmm.
So the prompts Adam puts in, the prompts Patrick or Michael, any of us put in, go into that large language model. So keep in mind, this is a young 4 or 5 year old thing. It's a kid. You want to be careful what you say around it because it'll repeat it in school. You want to encourage it to be nice to the other kids. All that, because once it's our future overlords, we want we want to be in favor with it. So favor, but play with the new tools, play with what's out there, and mix and match. A lot of crap, but you can dismiss those and know not to mess with that anymore.
And I think that's one of the things I'm actually looking for the list to stay away from. So those are. I do the same thing. I get into something and I'm like, oh, well, this isn't any better. I just wasted, all this time. And so when I look at these Facebook groups for AI, I see if they have hey, here's all the image ones, just stay away from. They're not ready yet. You're going to waste your time. Stick with these 4 or 5 or whatever that list is, just to have a starting point for people that like, we haven't messed with AI images on our side yet. So, we're dipping our toe in it. Chad Michael is doing all those baseball images for us, and he's going to teach us how he does those at spring training. But that's the type of things that we're trying to figure out on the image side is where do we start so we don't end up wasting a whole bunch of freaking time.
Yeah, I'm debating a handout on my top 3 and bottom 3 for various tasks.
Okay, that'd be cool.
But I know that this is a month away. There'll be some other stuff coming out, or it's just
100%
better, So
I was actually looking at doing, because I played with the plugins within ChatGPT 4, And I was going to do the same thing. These plugins serve a kind of purpose. These plugins just stay away from. But there's 7-10 new plugins every friggin' day. And so just trying to do the ones that are SEO kind of just puts it in the wrong box. It needs to be a wider box than just SEO. So
yeah, there's so many things that were not built for SEO, but can benefit your SEO.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly, and that's the whole thing. It's we have a lot of fun with it. Obviously, in Boston, I taught everybody how to personalize Chat GPT, kind of make it your bitch. And it still works today. It's actually getting better because of the memory increase. It actually remembers better the chats that you go back to. So even the longer chats, it'll go back, give me an update from the very beginning of this chat, and it'll be pretty friggin' close. So,
and I because I spoke about some AI stuff in Boston, at a conference, you listen to a presentation and it swirls around in your head, and the next night or the next day or the next few days later, you're going, wow, and I was lucky at that conference. I spoke on the first day. So all the rest of the days, I'd be lunch or dinner, drinking at the bar, and people would come up and go, I thought of something else we could do with that. You could, I didn't think of, which is part of the idea of presenting, is the feedback.
Yeah.
And then meeting people that do something completely different, but go, oh, I haven't played in that realm, but this or that would work in that realm and stuff. So,
sure.
Get your tickets, man, before they're sold out, because
I appreciate that.
These connections,
Definitely, 100%, and that's it's awesome. So, anyways, Mr. Rayburn, you're up. What are you planning on exciting us with?
Yeah, so for me, it's not as that, don't get me wrong, and I don't mean this in a bad way, Terry. It's not like the shiny object thing, because AI
totally.
is obviously it's exciting because the opportunities are endless, and I think that what you're bringing has significant value. In fact, I'll probably want to buy you a beer or something and talk to you more about some of those things, just because you've spent so much more time on it than I have. We do use AI, but not to the extent that you're investigating it. So I definitely want it, and I don't mean that in a bad way. But some of the things that we find in the industry that kind of get a bad name, I like to go back through and say, well, can we still apply it, right? So everybody says GSA is a bad tool, just as an example, and we think that it's a fantastic tier 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Tool. So what I'll be actually talking about, though, is press releases is one of those things where a lot of people are like, oh, we just don't do press releases anymore because we don't see anything from it. And what we've found is they don't see anything from it because they do a press release and then they run into the myriad of issues like duplicate content, the fact link equity, they just don't have much link juice. And so what we're going to be doing is talking about how to solve these problems and basically do full circle SEO with the press releases. So that way you get and nothing that's super difficult, right? Just some simple ways in order to overcome that. So that way press releases can become powerful again. Again, press releases are not sexy like AI. Let's be honest. I think every one of us can go, yeah, press releases, they've been around forever. But it's an effective tool if used in the right way. It's just what happens is that because I coach a lot of junior SEOs, and what I see is they just do they do everything. Well, I did the press release, I don't see anything. I built a backlink, I don't see anything. And they just stop there, and it's like, but okay, so you did 10%, just so an example, in our agency we have something called no half measures. And it means that we don't do things half-assed. If we do something and our clients don't benefit from it in some way or fortune, we always say, okay, well, let us fix it. And then we go fix whatever the issue is so they get some results. And when I listen to newer SEOs talk about things, it's full of those half measures, right? And some of it's because they don't understand. Some of it's just because they've bought into the dose, what's it called? The least effective dose mentality. And unfortunately, if you want to have an agency and you want your clients to stay, like that kind of has to go out the door, and it has to be like, how can I give my client tremendous results? And that way I can keep them for as long as possible. And that's where you really get to experience agency growth. With that thought, when we go back to, and this applies to citations, it applies to, press releases and backlinks and everything else. And so basically that's what we're going to go over, is like how to fix those things. And I truly believe that if people literally fix these little things in their agency like this, they can probably add 10K recurring 1 year from now, because they'll keep that many more clients, just because they'll get better rankings from doing full on SEO as opposed to partial SEO.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I've been teaching press release, strategies for a long time, and
Sure.
I'm like you. The biggest thing I see with press releases, citations, even syndication networks, if you're not blogging, they get built, and that's all they do. That's it. Oh, I did a press release. Well, what did you do to the press release? What else did you do? You can't just say I did a press release. So I mean, I especially for GMB's rankings, I love stacking press releases. I've been doing it for years.
Absolutely.
And and what I love about AI now is I can turn one approved press release into 3 like that. So
Yes.
and I don't have to get reapproved. I just so it's
right.
But I'm a huge fan of what you're doing with press releases. I'm looking forward to seeing how everybody can do it in a better, simple way. People are amazed that I have press releases still out there from 2 years ago. I still send links to them. If Google's still going to give me credit, I'm still gonna build links to it. So why wouldn't you?
I mean, there's all kinds of little things you can do that takes seconds. Like how long does a GSA campaign take to set up, truthfully? Like you literally can say okay, and it'll tell you you're not done, dummy, right? Do this, and you say okay, I do that, and you click okay, and it still says, hey, dummy, you're still not done, right? Like so, like you can even let it tell you you don't have to become an expert with it in order to do that, right? And that's like simple stuff, I mean, realistically, like that software, if you get the captcha breaker, it'll cost you $200, right? But it can provide all those extra links you need. Just as an example, there's plenty of other tools that you can use, but that's just one example of an inexpensive fix for the long run. So
yeah, exactly. So that's cool. That's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to especially all that, because it works for on page too. I mean, that's what people know. It's not just a map play. I mean, I start my press releases with a blog post. That's my main thing on mine or my clients' websites. Is I want to be able to have ultimate control of that ending link.
Right. And so that's the other thing I think that drives me crazy is we all, like, as SEOs, and I'll touch on this too, but we all start talking about citations, backlinks, or niche, or news, or business, or like we start dissecting it into this. But what we forget is these are just all signals, right?
Totally.
And then we have to boil it down to like which ones are stronger than others, and then can we do them in particular orders in order to get the most bang for our buck? And which ones can we amplify by, like how you were talking about, your where you do like your old fashioned link wheel type stuff, right? Your syndication networks, so like, and that's what I'm saying. If we step back and we breathe for a second and we just boil it down to their signals, right? Like, I mean, because come on, press releases are links, citations are links. You have mentions in there too, but they're still links, right? And so like it can become very overwhelming. But if we just say, okay, look, it's a signal. It's a good signal, but how can we make it better? How can we amplify it? How can we tie them together? How can we, and we approach it from that, we get so much more out of it. And I think also what happens is it gives us the ability to like just do a better job at what we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the whole thing, too. And then, something like GSA, and you have 500 referring domains from a press release, there's really only maybe 10 that are super powerful that are going to give you all the bang for the buck. Same with citations. There's really only 20 real citations that do you any good. The rest of the stuff is just showing the clients that you build citations.
Yeah.
But you can take advantage of those 20 big time. Like Manta, nobody realizes you can actually add 3 or 4,000 words to a Manta listing,
Right.
with backlinks to different services. So
Right.
yeah, that's awesome. I'm super excited because you and I have talked about this many times, and the importance of don't just do something once and forget it. That's just wasting your money. So if you're going to spend the money or spend the time to do something, figure out phase 2, 3, 4, 5 if you go that deep, whatever you want to do. But don't ever call a press release company and say, man, your press release doesn't work. Well, what did you do to the press release? So anyways, great. I'm super excited. All right, Mr. Shannon, you're up. What do you bring into the table?
I don't know. Good question. I'm hoping I can earn my keep. So yeah, I always kind of, I go to these conferences and I look at, we've got a lot of people who have a tremendous amount of knowledge in SEO. And I think that's fantastic. And it's certainly a part of, like empires have been built with successful SEO, right? It plays a massive role in our ability to create revenue. For me, what I realized is there's a lot of people that kind of get caught in the weeds of, like the vehicle that we need to grow a business. And I ask a lot of the students that I have, like, what do you want? Because they're like, hey, I want to get to 10K. What? 10K a month. That seems like the first goal that everyone wants. Why? Right? What is that based on? What's the life that you want? Really? So I am going to talk about like how closing people and sales, right? I think Adam has a lot of experience in this too, right? Closing people, and then like, what do we need to do to scale a business? I was stuck with my business at $4,000 a month for 2 years. And then, over the next like 18 months, we had 7 figures. It was tremendous growth. I spent 2 years traveling around the world and having my business run on its own while we were building a software company, right? So how do we do that? Because I think the reason that a lot of us start this business is for financial freedom, to be able to live life on our own terms, right? And somewhere along the way, because we enjoy the SEO part of it, we forget what the end goal was, right? I love SEO. I love writing software, but what I like more is like going on a cruise with my wife, or like hanging out on the boat, right? Doing these types of things. So for the people that I think, if you said, hey, you can do whatever you want, would it still be SEO? And like, that's just what I want to do. I want to 18 hours a day. I want to be in there playing with backlinks. Like, that's awesome. Choose that path. But for those who are going to, that want to use this as a vehicle, how do we scale a business, and how do we actually change our lives and do what we want, so that when it's time for, we're all going to check out at the end of this, we're going to look back and say like, man, that was amazing. Like, I got to do what I want. I had an impact. So that's been a big part of my journey. And what I think what I'm going to present is the strategy session builder. So in January, for instance, I put myself back into my agency for a little bit to clean up some of our sales process. And we closed about $22,000 in monthly recurring revenue in January. It was probably like the second 2 weeks of January, really, that this happened. And I think our close rate was about 90%. So these were qualified people that were hitting. Like, how do we do that, right? A lot of times what we don't understand is, for someone to actually believe in us enough to give us their credit card and start paying, they have to know, like, and trust us. And we get the wrong idea, a lot of us, about what trust means. So in this context, what trust means is like, they believe in your ability to deliver. That doesn't mean that they believe in you to watch their kids, right? That's not that type of trust. It's this trust in your ability. So what the mistake a lot of marketing agencies and SEO make is that we try to speak in terms of SEO to somebody who has chosen a life pathway that is not aligned with SEO. So how do we speak to that person? What are the analogies that we can use to take something that's complex and make it seem simple, so that they understand, and then they can believe in us? So I'm going to go through a lot of those strategies, because as my buddy Adam McChesney says, there's not a lot of problems in your agency more money can't solve. Right. So we can fix that part of it. That's why Adam's focused on branding. So what Adam does and what I do, like, he's built up on branding. We've got other pipeline strategies. We're moving, because I 100% agree with you, Terry, and with what Adam is doing, is like, the self-branding is one of the most important things that we can have. So for me, 2024, a big focus is on that. That's why redone my office here, launching a podcast, going to really be pushing out my branding. Because here's what I want is we got to have the ability to have people coming in, and then we can start to solve who, not how questions. We can say, who can do this? Not how do I do this? Not how do I've got to like learn this and I've got to learn this and this. That's not the pathway to the life that I want. Mine is like, let's create the revenue and let's find the best people that we can. Let's bring them in. And now we have the funding to pay for it so we can live the life we want. So I'm going to talk about the sales process and about like scaling your agency in a way that it can support the life that you wanted when you started the business and not the one that you got in the habit of having and becoming like a slave to your company. So I think, Terry, at our event, you kind of felt a lot of this of like how we're trying to position things to get people financial freedom rather than becoming a slave to a job in a company that you own.
I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, one of the reasons that I loved going to your event, and thank you again for having me, but this year for Elizabeth and I is all about growth. You know, we want to 3 times our agency. And I know we're going to do that through, you know, filling the pipeline, you know, asking the right questions when you're deciding if you're going to bring people on or not. Don't get caught in a trap. I mentioned last podcast is, you know, I had a couple people that I probably really shouldn't have taken on as clients. And, you know, they've been a nightmare. We've all had those. So one of the things we're really trying to do better this year is we do a good job pre-qualifying, but then the human aspect of it is, you know, asking certain questions, you know, which, you know, I can talk about, you know, at the event in different ways. But the biggest thing is building that relationship with this client before you even talk about what you can do for them, you know, because they might not be in a position to get ready for you. So they might just be, their goal might be completely different than, you know, than what you're thinking you can do for them. And then so all of a sudden you're starting off on a rocky path, so to speak. And I learned so much from Patric's event just because I'm at the right place at the right time for growth. This is our 14th year. And I'm ready to go out and do the stuff that I want to do with Elizabeth, you know? So yeah, no, it's super exciting. I know you're going to kill it. Excuse me. I can't say that word. That's how I got a 30-day ban on Facebook. But you know, I know you're going to do awesome and just bring all the stuff that just, you know, I think that, you know, some people, if they're not in that position to be ready for that yet, if they're still too new or they're still, you know, trying to get to that 10K mark, that's totally fine. But, you know, Patric has stuff that you need to start from the very beginning, you know, so, and he's going to talk about that stuff. So
yeah, it's planting those seeds, you know?
Exactly. 100%. So,
yeah.
All right, Adam, you told us a little bit about what you're going to talk about. Anything that you want to add to that or?
Yeah. So, and I apologize for jumping the gun.
No, it's totally fine. We're all running businesses,
but
and families.
So one of the things that I'm actually going to be diving into is what I call our ideal client profile exercise. So when we talk to our clients and when I talk to agency owners, everybody says one thing, right? I want more leads, right? Mm-hmm. I want to grow my business. So you're talking about that before, but you were also talking about how you've worked with some of the wrong clients, the clients that ultimately, you know, nickel and dime you, ask for discounts, want refunds, and then they take up all of your time, right? And so where most people go wrong as they start personal branding is they're just talking about, hey, I have a digital marketing agency and I can help anybody and everybody. Now, there's some people that, of course, get niched down with their content and things like that. But for the most part, people do themselves a disservice by building a personal brand because they're looked at as a digital marketer and they go out and say, hey, Terry, I can work with anybody that's a business. Well, okay, it's not just that you're telling the world that, but the people that are trying to refer you business are going to be like, okay, that's anybody and everybody. There's millions of businesses that are out there. But what if I told you, Terry, that my ideal client has been in business for at least 3 years. They're a home service business or a contractor. They're doing $1 million plus a year in revenue. They have a CRM that's already in place, and somebody other than the owner is heading up the sales and marketing internally. So they either have a sales rep or a sales manager or a marketing or an admin person that is going to be our main point of contact and the person that we're meeting with on a consistent basis. Well, now that changes the picture because now when we produce our content, we now know what type of content to talk about because we're talking to that ideal client, and all of the raving fans that we're trying to build that are referral partners out there. We're going to get them to start knowing who they should tag us and connect us with online. So that's the first step that I walk through in this presentation to kind of build off of. Once we know who your ideal client profile is, then that's when we can start actually doing the content. Not that you shouldn't start content if you don't know who your ideal client profile is, but you should get it and you should expand on it. And it should be done at a higher clip and a more quality rate once you know that.
Cool. Man, that's freaking awesome. And that's, you know, that I tell you, it's becoming more and more important, especially business owners that have been through a number of SEOs already. You know, you've got to find out, number one, why did they contact you that day? You know, one of my favorite things I saw at Patric's event is, you know, that key question: why today? What happened? You know, why not yesterday, last month, last year, whatever? What, you know, are you in a different position? Did something, you know, did you see something, you know, whatever. But and then I think the biggest second step, which, you know, second question I ask now, which I never did before, is what is the current state of your business? You know, are you going to be out of business in 6 months if you don't start getting leads in? Are you, you know, 50% full? You know, what are those things? Because sometimes we shouldn't be talking about SEO. We should be talking about leads quicker, pay-per-click or Facebook ads or something that's going to generate leads faster than SEO would. So, and I never did that before. All my onboarding calls, I never asked the state of the, you know, hey, what's the state of your business? You know, tell me about your current workload, you know, stuff like that. And it's the three people I've done it with since Patric's event. I've closed all three of them. So, because again, I'm looking at things a little bit differently. One of them, we did a half and half, you know, half SEO, maps mostly, and pay-per-click, you know. So, but I think once you understand where they're at, you know, relationship wise, emotionally, and then of course, money wise, then you can make a better decision and make a better presentation. So that's awesome. And I'm so looking forward to that, because I still think everybody needs to pay more and more attention to that, because new people to SEO are not going down. It keeps increasing every single year. So, you know, a lot of that's not really true competition, but they're going to be people or agencies or companies that eventually we're going to have to deal with, whether positive or negative, mostly. But, you know, so no, I think that's super exciting. So
I'd love to chime in for 1 second here about what Adam is talking about there too. I think a lot of times for people that are having sales issues or retention issues, part of the problem may deal with the fact that, like Adam said, you're not speaking to your ideal customer. And then if those are the people that are coming in and then you're finding a way to close them, well, long-term, it's not going to be a good fit. You're going to have a hard time hitting a home run for them. If you're struggling to close people, maybe they're not your ideal avatar. So kind of like people, a lot of people think that they have sales problems or like deliverability problems, but really it's the client acquisition, and it's just kind of like going all the way down the line. So like what Adam is doing here is something that, you know, for my agency, we focus on concrete contractors that are in epoxy flooring doing coatings that are doing more than $500,000 a year. Right. And there's actually other qualifiers that go in there, but it's like when you have that clarity and you can start to speak that message, it makes the entire agency more effective. Right. So I think Adam has correctly identified a major issue that people have with their whole business, right? Like McDonald's didn't become McDonald's because like, hey, over here we make steaks, we make cheeseburgers here, and now we have like we're selling seafood. They have a process that's scalable where they repeat it. They're dealing with the same thing. It's consistent, and they know how to deliver on it. And when you have the right avatar coming in, then like everything else in your business gets easier. So I'm excited to see Adam. I've seen Adam speak a bunch of different times, and it's always fantastic. I always learn something from you know, Terry too. I think we were in Boston together, learned a ton from you, Michael. I'm excited to meet you in person. I know we've had some like chats in Messenger over the years, but yeah, man, this is awesome what you put together here, Terry.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting. It's you know, this is the 5th year. Again, one of the things that we're probably the most proud of when we put this together is we actually added a third day, and the ticket prices didn't increase. So again, it's all about value. It's all about, bringing the right people to the right area, where you're obviously doing things a little differently with the morning stage. And then we have a catered lunch. And then after lunch, we have breakout rooms. So we're going to have an on-page room, an AI room, link building, slash GMB room. And then kind of like a smorgasbord of stuff. I got, some people coming, or a person coming in that's really good with pay-per-click ads for home services, stuff like that. So anything else before we wrap up, gentlemen? And I do appreciate you and thank you all for coming again. That's awesome.
Terry, I just want to let anybody know, if they've heard anything today from one of us that is something they plan on focusing on, there's a lot more there than just what we've said, and you need to hear it. You may say, well, my agency's not at the point where I need to do what Adam's talking about. All the more reason to know about it. There's going to be a lot of information that you don't go intending to focus on, and realize that will help my business a lot more than what I thought I was. I was going to learn schema, and here I need to concentrate on these other things also. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We do have one question, and I bet you this is for Adam. What about a person that has two personal brands, twice the work, but I feel like sometimes the world needs to be separated?
So I would have to understand what the personal brands are. So what I'll just kind of go into help you understand a little bit about my personal brand. So my personal brand has really been derived around Adam as the serial entrepreneur that just so happens to have a digital marketing agency, just so happens to have a coaching and mastermind, but he owns an auto glass company. He owns all of these other things. So I'm looked at in that light, but also the light that people come to me a lot of times because they want to get connected to other people. And so hey, Adam, who do you know that is an accountant? Who do you know that does X, Y, and Z? Adam, I need this connection. I trust who you can do that. So I want to be a connector of people as well. But on January 1st of this year, somebody gave me 20% equity in their company here in St. Louis, photo booth rental company, just because they wanted my name on it and to be able to have me basically do it. So it's like the Shark Tank type of a model, but also obviously bringing the digital marketing, side of things. So where most people got to think about the personal brand is your personal brand should not just be about what project or business or agency you're working on right now. This is a holistic thing of who is Adam the individual, because a lot of times people tie themselves to their business.
Yeah.
Sell their agency, they go out of business, they pivot, they do whatever. They struggle after the fact because they have no brand, which is why, I did more sales in 24 hours with my Builders of Authority coaching and mastermind group than I did my first entire year in running my agency, all because I had the personal brand, not because Builders of Authority was any better or different than my agency. But that personal brand is the thing that is who you are when you're not in the room and people talk about you.
For sure, 100%. And that's the same thing that I've been building on my side. Because I don't want to just be known as Salterra. I would rather be Terry owns Salterra, Spring Training, SEO University, and all the other stuff that we're getting our paws into. But I think that's the important way to look at it, is because it's like, if one thing doesn't do well and you decide to shuttle that or whatever, you just bring something else on, but it's not affecting the top of the umbrella, so to speak. There might be some negativity from that one arm, but you're known for other stuff too. So, it's super cool. So, all right, cool. So does anybody else have anything before we wrap up?
No, I just do want to make one statement, just very brief, but it's just that, in my personal opinion, not that you don't get a lot from the speakers, but what people don't understand is when they try to do live, when they're not live in the event and they try to stream, is they really miss out on the connections that happen at the bar or the meetup areas, because that's when like, in my opinion, the real knowledge is shared, right?
Mhm.
Like, I can turn around and approach Terry and be like, okay, tell me more about that chatbot, because I was just about to go hire an appointment setter. How can I manipulate that into this role so then I'm only spending $100 a month versus, like, I don't know, $800 a month on an appointment setter, and then save that money. Not to mention I can duplicate it and create 3 and 4 of them as opposed to only one. So I think that that's what actually makes these events so worthwhile, is because you get some of the best SEOs in the nation all in one location and you get to pick their brain.
Yeah, 100%. So anyways, I'm going to do one more little thing here. That's awesome. Yeah, I agree 100% with, I mean, we did the huge digital event back in 2020 when COVID hit. And as great as that was, it was really nice to see everybody again, and I don't remember what, I think it might have been Dory's was the first live one that we all kind of came out of COVID and saw each other. And that was pretty cool. So one other little thing, maybe a little push for you. Anybody that in the next 48 hours that buys a ticket and uses that coupon code TEWEB24, you get to go to a private dinner with Elizabeth and I and Clint, and then we'll probably see if we can drag a couple speakers with us too Friday night. So take advantage of it. Take advantage of the networking. Get to know all of us. That's why we put these on. I don't want all the speakers stay at the same hotel. So nobody's kind of spread out anywhere. You just, see somebody at breakfast and hopefully make a connection and stuff like that. It'd be awesome. So anyways, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Our next one's going to be on a Saturday for all you weekend warriors. So we'll put out that here probably tomorrow or so. But again, thanks, gentlemen, for your time. I know you're all busy. I look forward to seeing you in 34 days.
I know. It's fast.
So, all right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll talk to everybody later.
Take care, guys.
Take care, everybody.